Hi, let's talk about IPv6. We've talked about IPv4. We looked at classful versus classless interdomain routing. We looked at 32 bits, how to convert dotted decimal to binary, and how to use variable length subnet masks in order to determine both the subnet ID or the network ID host and the broadcast address associated with that particular subnet or prefix. So let's talk about IPv6. It's going towards the future. It's federally required, and what it does is it expands the key space associated with all network devices attaching to a LAN or to the WAN, which is a wide area network. Essentially what this does is this helps accommodate all the devices that are now coming online and all the devices that we expect to come online in the future. So IPv6 has replaced IPv4, but what happened is over the last 20 years, we knew this was happening. So we created technologies like network address translation, so NAT, double NAT, static and dynamic port overloads, and many others. Going further, let's talk about IPv6, and we'll talk about the specific address features, but we won't talk about interface types. That would be a different video. We'll be talking about link local, global addresses, and much more. So let's talk about why is it better. It's better because it's bigger. And it's bigger in this case because it has 128 bits instead of 32 bits. What that means is it's able to accommodate more devices on the network. Not only that, if you're given a subnet or prefix length of 80, you still have a lot to work with. And so that is a feature that's very appealing, and that's something that network engineers really love because they love to be able to subnet multiple times within their network, and they love to be able to have the extra space and capacity in case they do onboard more devices or professionals or their business grows. So in this scenario, IPv4 could not accommodate this. So IPv6 has 16 bytes with 128 bits. And instead of dotted decimal, you're looking at hexadecimal. So we've looked at converting from dotted decimal to binary. We've looked at converting from dotted decimal to hexadecimal. And so that's what we're concerned about here. There are two special rules associated with IPv6 that we'll talk about later. However, let's go through the design. So there's 8 different quartets. For each quartet, there's 4 hexadecimal characters. So remember, a hexadecimal character that we're going to be concerned about is 0 through 15. And in this case, from 10 to 15 are going to be alphabetical characters. So 10 is going to be A, 11 is going to be B, 12 is going to be C, 13 is going to be D, 14 is going to be E, and 15 is going to be F. So in this scenario, we see that there's 4 different quartets in the middle that all have zeros. So the first special rule is saying you can cross these out and essentially condense them. So let's do that. The second special rule says any leading zeros within a quartet can be omitted. So we see that for the last 3 quartets, we can omit 1 for this quartet, 2 for this quartet, and 3 for this quartet. Also wanted to add an additional requirement associated with Rule 1 is you can only do condensing once. It only happens one time for IPv6. So now we can rewrite this address, make it a lot easier so it doesn't take up half the board. This address looks a lot better than this address. Essentially, we condensed it down by rule number 1. So now it has a double colon, and we've cut out or omitted the leading zeros associated with the other quartets. It's much more friendly, much more usable, easier to look at. So what you can do from here is, depending on what your prefix length is, you can then determine the subnet ID and the broadcast address associated with that. And we've gone through that in IPv4. It's not necessary to harp on that now. We'll be touching upon different network interfaces. And we look at different network interfaces. Each of the network interface is going to have a particular subnet mask that's inherently associated with it. And we'll go through that at that time. This was just to get you familiar with IPv6. I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to seeing you on my channel, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.